Before I begin, I feel it is necessary to point out that the news arm of the BBC has yet to retract, apologize, or otherwise address the deeply transphobic reporting it has engaged in the last few months. In a pinned comment down below, you'll find my original video on the topic, several videos from the YouTuber Sean, who has been ongoing in his pursuit of trying to get the BBC to own up to what they have done, and also a video from Laura Kate Dale showing the protests that have taken place outside of the BBC offices. While I don't feel any of the people behind Doctor Who are in any way responsible for this, I cannot in good conscience talk about a BBC-owned property without mentioning this first, until such time as it is properly redressed. Thank you.
I think I'm just going to have a nice, relaxed day, and guess not. So I figured the announcement of the next Doctor was rapidly approaching. I suspect, in terms of the timing, given that they didn't have like an interview ready to go the way they did with, say, Matt Smith. They didn't have like a teaser video the way they did with Jodie Whittaker. They didn't even have like a big sort of on-stage presentation or something like they had with Peter Capaldi. To me, says that they were trying to get ahead of a leak. It feels like a little bit of a rushed announcement, but it is what it is. It's been announced, and I'm going to talk about this. Now, if I'm lucky, I'll get this out the same day. I know I said on Twitter that I wouldn't, but like maybe I will. And if this comes out Monday morning, well, I didn't. In any case, we have our 14th Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa. And that's as close as I'm going to get to pronouncing it correctly. I did look it up and do my best, but this is an actor who I'm not familiar with. He is, at this point, apparently best known as one of the leading roles in the Netflix series Sex Education, which is not something that I've been watching. Most of his experience seemed to be on stage prior to that. And I did look up and try to watch the first episode of Sex Education. I didn't get very far into it, not because it's bad, but it's a high school, somewhat cringy, teenage-aimed romp comedy thing. That's not my bag about 4 times over. I did watch a little bit of his performance, but I realized really quickly this is not useful for me because, at least as far as season 1 goes, he was a 26-year-old playing a teenager. And that really did not feel like it was going to give me any indication of what else he might do. And I have no reason to believe he would play it the way that he did in Sex Education. So I stopped pretty quickly because this isn't helpful. I did, however, look up an interview that he did in relation to Sex Education. The main thing I picked up there was that the accent he uses in Sex Education is not his standard accent. But I also would not have guessed that it wasn't his standard accent. So that immediately kind of brings to question, well, how is he going to choose to sound? Now, if you're curious about his background, if you know nothing about him, he was born in Rwanda, but he grew up in Scotland, and he's been living in London while he, actually has a career. So I at least would still consider him British by the same token that I consider myself to be a Vermonter. Yes, technically I was born in California, but I didn't grow up there. I grew up here. So other people might get weirdly uppity about it or think that I'm breaking my normal rule of I believe very firmly they should have a British actor as the Doctor. I would consider him to be, but that's me. Here's something I should point out now. None of this video is going to be me talking about anybody else's response to this casting. I do not have the time, and I sure as hell don't have the energy to look at what the general reaction has been. I know a little bit about what some reactions have been, from the Council of Geeks Discord. Patreon perk. Support me on Patreon. You can have access to that. Let's get the plug in there early. Or a couple of small things like that. But I'm certainly not seeking out what the general public is saying. I haven't watched anybody else's videos on this, and I may not, even after I get this out there, just because, I don't know, trying to parse what everyone else thinks about something is draining for me, and it's not something I generally enjoy doing. But in any case, that will be no part of this video. So I know that I had expressed in an earlier video, I actually probably at several points, but I even had a video dedicated to it, that what I really wanted was for Joe Martin to be the 14th Doctor. Now, this was not the point at which I realized that wasn't going to happen. The point at which I realized that wasn't going to happen was when it was announced that Joe Martin was going to have a box set with Big Finish playing the Fugitive Doctor. And as a rule, Big Finish doesn't get access to the lead actors while they're currently on the show, later guest spots notwithstanding. So that pretty much eliminated her right there. Not that it was that likely that she was going to continue to play the part anyway, because she probably originally only took the gig on the basis that it was not going to be eating up a ton of her time like playing it as the lead would be. So that I kind of already moved on from. Now, let's kind of deal with what are ultimately the two main questions or things that kind of come up culturally and contextually with this casting. The fact that we have gone from Jodie Whittaker back to a man, and the fact that Ncuti Gatwa is going to be playing the first ever Black Doctor in the main line as the lead. Not the first Black Doctor. Joe Martin gets to have that title, so don't take that from her. However, the first one who will actually be the lead of the show as it airs. So that is pretty significant, because while I never want to diminish Joe Martin's impact in the role, there is a difference between someone who is effectively a guest appearance and actually having it be the lead. There is a difference in the momentousness of that to a certain degree. Not to say that this is more momentous, but it's a different milestone than the one that Joe Martin broke. So you don't break milestones, you reach milestones, you break boundaries, and I mixing my terminology and my metaphors. So I've kind of got mixed feelings about this. I've already seen some people express a concern or frustration that immediately going back to a man to play the Doctor is a sign that we will probably not get another woman again for a very, very long time, because people feel that it will be read or interpreted either by fandom in general or by the people running the show as an admission that a female Doctor didn't work. So we're not going to do that again. I don't personally read it as that. Now, at this point in time, we don't know a lot about what the casting process was like. We don't know if Russell T. Davies actually just met with actors to see who was available, whether auditions were held, how open those were in terms of the variety of actors from different demographics that were brought in. We flat out do not know any of that, so I'm not going to speculate on it. So let's just look at the reality of who we have and the overall sort of appearance and how things sort of look or shake out when you break down sort of the cultural impact or the possible interpretations of that. Again, not getting into speculating about how casting did or didn't work, because we don't know. All options are possible, and I'm not gonna throw out 50 different friggin' hypotheticals. So I do understand the concern about having a man just take over the role immediately after Jodie Whittaker. It's actually one that I've expressed before. I did a video a while back talking about my concerns and my feeling that the next Doctor should also be a woman. However, a couple of things had changed since I did that. And the main one being Joe Martin. Now, that's not me saying, well, we've had another female Doctor, because as much as I love Joe Martin, and I never want to take away the impact of her reveal and how good she was in the part for the limited time she's played it, at the same time, that's not being like, oh, it's another female Doctor. It's not the same, and I do realize that. But the reason I bring up Joe Martin is because if we were to have another female Doctor, well, then there is the question of race. Because if we were to have another white woman right away, there would be, I think, potentially concern that that would look like they're trying to basically take another crack at, they're trying to do a redo on Jodie Whittaker, or that it's like, well, they finally cracked the gender thing when they went with someone other than a man, but how long will it be until we'll have someone who isn't white? And if they went with a black woman specifically, even if Joe Martin was never on the table to come in, it would kind of feel like, well, why don't you just give us Joe Martin? So I could see potential just issues or debates or issues with perception going with another woman and basically any variation thereof. Now, that is not me saying, and it's a good thing they didn't cast a woman. I'm not saying that. I'm simply looking at the angles through which and the lenses through which I think this would have been viewed had that happened. Now, I think the absolute worst thing they could have done was go back to a white man and just lock back into that, because that really would have felt like an admission that any diversity from that template was a mistake. And however you feel about Chibnall Zara, I'm not a fan. The fact that it was a woman cast is not the problem with literally any of it. So if anything that feeds into that perception is a potential problem. But I think at least breaking it up so it's not another white man doesn't feel like, oh, we got to go back to what it was. Besides the fact that bringing back Russell T Davies already has a little bit of the feeling of we need to go back to when it worked before. You don't need to double down and do that with the casting of the Doctor as well. Now, it's worth touching on at least the idea really quickly that maybe, they could have gotten another actress who is non-white but isn't specifically black, except there was I now kind of have a better understanding about the reality of the demographics, particularly in the acting community in the UK. I had my discussion with Jason Hay-Gallery, who is the managing director at Big Finish. You can check that interview out there if you want. And one of the things we actually spent a while about was talking about the demographics of the available actors, because something I hadn't appreciated and something he didn't necessarily understand was viewed differently in other parts of the world is that I'm used to looking at casting diversity from the metrics of casting in the US, where most casting is done in places like Los Angeles and New York, which are incredibly diverse cities in an already pretty dang diverse country. Whereas in the UK, the percentage of not only the general population is way, way, way wider, but the percentage of working actors is also disproportionately white, even relative to the demographics of the country as a whole. And any minority that isn't black is even less represented, regardless of what their actual standing in terms of population in the nation there is. So, trying to deliberately cast non-white, I don't think is a bad thing, but I now have a better understanding of how difficult that can be in the UK, because especially for something like this, trying to find somebody who is up for it, talented, and more importantly, available. I mean, that's difficult for anybody, but when you narrow your field of potential actors because you're looking for something specific, that makes it all the harder. But anyway, there's that tangent gone. So that's me talking about sort of the general look of having gone from Jodie Whittaker to Ncuti Gatwa, going from a woman to a man, but also now going to a black man, which if they were going to go back to a man, I am definitely glad they didn't go with another white guy, because as I said, that would have been the worst thing would have been to bring back an actor who'd already played it. Stop pushing the idea of David Tennant coming back. My God. Duh. And I don't think that was ever on the table, and I never thought it was, but it really frustrated me how many people kept saying that would or should happen. And I'm also kind of heartened by the fact that I didn't see Ncuti Gatwa show up on any of the lists of likely people. I saw every now and then, and I don't monitor this stuff, but every now and then people would shoot me oh, the bookmakers now say it's probably going to be this, or the site that claimed it was going to be Jodie Whittaker and was right about that, it says it's going to be this person, or I would see those names. I never saw his name anywhere, and that's kind of nice. I can't help but be reminded a bit about Matt Smith, not just because Matt Smith was pretty unknown. Now, I actually think Ncuti Gatwa's got a better and more established career at this point than Matt Smith did when he was cast. But at least for me, my experience of finding out who it was, not knowing who this person is, and also how young he is, because he is a little bit older than Matt Smith was when Matt Smith was cast, but he's pretty young. He'll be 30 by the time he starts actually shooting, most likely. He'll either be 30 or he'll turn 30 during the shooting of his first series. And it's been a while since we've had somebody that young. And I don't think that's automatically a better thing. And I also don't think it automatically means he's going to bring a quote-unquote youthful energy to things. Because one of the things that was actually really intriguing about Matt Smith was, despite his clear, visible youth, he had the sense of somebody much older. So I'm not saying that this gives me a read on how he'll play the Doctor. I have truly zero idea how he is going to play the Doctor. But I am sort of energized from what I am coming to understand about him. Seeing his youth, watching an interview with him, seeing the energy that he just has as a person, not really liking what I saw of Sex Education, but again, seeing just a natural charisma, which is, in my mind, a good thing to see and something I like to have in my doctors when I can get them. And seeing that and again, hearing, how different his natural accent is from the one he uses in Sex Education, so I don't even know what he's going to sound like. It's just kind of thrilling to have a face, but really wonder, what are we going to get? I'm curious. And while I never believed any of the rumors, especially of like David Tennant, there's something relieving about, I don't have even a tiny sliver of my brain worried about, are they going to announce somebody that's going to make me worried? They've now announced who it is. I'm not worried. I'm not assuming he's going to be great, because like I said, I have no idea how he's going to play this part at all. But at least knowing that they're not going to cast somebody who's going to fall into, any number of things that I was afraid of, going back to a white man, feeling like it's capitulating to certain fan demands or any number, or God, especially going back to an actor who's played it before or anything like that. Now that I know that it's truly impossible, even though I believed it before, like I now know for a fact, none of that happens, I can kind of relax and just wait till we see more. I think probably next video from me on this will be when we get a look at the outfit. Because if we're going by the template set by Jodie Whittaker's announcement, which again, it's already slightly broken because she had like the reveal video thing, and Ncuti Gatwa doesn't get that. But if we assume a general template along those lines, next up we can assume we'll get some kind of promotional material, be it video or photographs of the outfit and how he's going to look. And then I might start to get a better sense of how he's going to play the part once I know how he's going to be costumed. And then we'll wait for teasers and trailers and then new episodes. I'm just relieved. I think that's where I'm at. It's just an announcement that I'm like, okay, yeah, show me what you got. My thoughts on the casting of Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. What are your thoughts on this? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like, share, subscribe. Mention the Patreon already. But even if you can't support me there, all the other stuff helps me out as well. And there's links in the description to books I've written or merch that is available or other places that you can see things that I do. But don't worry too much about it. Because what I really want you to remember is that you are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved. You are the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. Hey, end credits time, which means I need to shout out some patrons. This time I'm going to be shouting out Robin Moore, Zubin Litfala, Tarak, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Imudelki, Leo the Boy, TT, Vernobulax the Poodle, Zach Paul, Eidolon, Tracy Scrabbit, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Angry Kasparov, Toku BL Hoovian, Adam RDL Taylor, Shane Ross, Shayla Gourlay, and Brendan LaRose. You want to hear me mispronounce your name? Check out rewards on the Patreon. Thanks for all your support.